from the heart of Dubai, where tomorrow is being built today, to the world. Welcome to the CTO Show with Mehmet. Here, we redefine technology and reimagine possibilities. With Mehmet, delve into the riveting realms of AI, cybersecurity, and digital technology. Experience the thrilling highs and lows of startups. Immerse yourself in the spirit of entrepreneurship and witness the future of business innovation being written in real time. Now, without further ado, let's tune in and explore the future.
Hello and welcome back to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today I'm very pleased joining me from the US, Arnaud Lucas. Arnaud, thank you very much for joining me today. The way I love to do it is I keep it to my guests to introduce themselves. So first of all, thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about you, what you're currently up to.
Sounds good. So my name is Arnaud. I'm currently a CTO at Wanderu. Wanderu is a very small startup based in the US. Focus on train and bus and transportation in general, e-commerce, so be able to sell tickets for bus and trains. The main market is North America. And, as you can see from my accent, I'm originally French, even though I've been in the US now for 26 years or so it has been a while. But first doing some startups back in Texas, and then moved to Boston, moved to slightly more bigger companies like Mountain, TripAdvisor, Wayfair, before going back to a startup at Wanderu. So that's me.
Cool. Arnaud, I've seen a trend, in your career, you've been always close to travel and, these kinds of things. Is that something you attracted you specifically, or it was just by luck?
It's a little bit by accident. Not that I love to travel, first of all, and I'm not the only one. My kids love to travel now, maybe more than I do. So, but no, what I like is solve customer problems. So you can see that in my career, between TripAdvisor or Wayfair, although it's really more being focused on the customer. Travel is definitely something I know, so that makes it easier for me. To kind of work in an area actually I'm interested in. I use myself, and so that's. But not that I'm strictly about travel. No.
I got it. Also one of the things that I always ask, my guests, reaching to the CTO and becoming the person who's translating business needs into into technology. Now, I'm just curious to know, Arnaud, what was, the main factor that also led you to become a CTO? In other way, some people, they still prefer to be purely in the technical side. Maybe they would go to be a VP of engineering. Some people, they would go, some other directions. So for you, it was the CTO path. Tell me a little bit more about this. I'm curious to know, and this is maybe it will eliminate also some of the career paths available for people who are maybe still, early in their careers.
So it's an interesting question because for me, technology is just a mean to an end. Effectively, it's always been, right? So I started very awesome, strong technologies, and then I started moving towards management and leadership. But that's something I learned from my TripAdvisor days, and even more at Wayfair, where effectively it was all about the technology is here to have a business impact, right? So we need to have some kind of impact to the business. Otherwise, why are we part of the business? And so it's not really to create a bridge. It's actually to make sure that technology and the tech team is having the right level of impact to the business, right? And that's what makes both sides happy, right? If we can deliver strong value to the business, then obviously the business side of the company is happy. And I think there is value in doing that so that the people on the tech side, on the tech part, are actually happy as well, right? So I think that's the best way to see it. So it's not that I want to be technologies just for technology's sake, or really want to do technology so that I can deliver that value to the business, if that makes sense. And so for me, CTO was just, a great fit for that, right? It's, because as a CTO, you're part of the executive team. So you're really immersed into what are the overall problem of the company. And so that makes me more efficient in understanding, okay, what are the technical needs and opportunities that you have.
I got you. Now, one of the things which we just mentioned and you just like touched base a little bit about is, the role of the CTO, from aligning the company technology, whatever they're going to implement as technology, with the vision and strategy for the bigger picture of the company. So, from your perspective, like what are the best ways, or like, what are like some of the practices you do to ensure like, whatever technology or, whether like you're using internally or the technology you build, it stays aligned with the overall business objectives? Like what are some of the things you do?
I think for me, it's all about promoting ownership, right? And because if you have proper ownership, that means first of all to have visibility over your domains, over your cross-functional domain, and working as a team together cross-functionally into having that ownership over a certain area of the business, and making that visible, be able to monitor that effectively. And then from there, really that's where you start building like that vision, that mission, that set of strategies to execute about your domain, and you understand what's on your domain. So for me, a big tenet of that is really to have ownership over your domain. There is a book called Extreme Ownership that I really love that explains what that means in practice. And because if you have ownership of your domain and you do that in a cross-functional manner, right? So it's not just tech, it's product design, engineers, analytics, marketing, and any business component like business operations and more, all working together and having that demonstrated that ownership together. I think that's what you get at alignment. Typically, like you don't. Yes, the executive needs to align on the direction of the company, but it's not just the executive, right? It needs to happen at every level of the company. And the question is, how do you promote that? How do you make sure that it's not just the executive that align and not like, take based on that should do this, and then business should do that, and marketing should do that. No, it's more like, let's work together at all levels to deliver the right impact. One framework I like to use from a planning standpoint is OKRs, even in a small company, and something is more to promote, like I mentioned before, delivering that business impact over work, right? So people often say, we need to do that project, is going to be awesome. Great, but what do you plan to achieve by doing that project, right? By creating that new features, will you get a big impact on the business, or will you do the same all and we just like busy work effectively? So trying to really promote pushing for impact effectively, but pushing for impact as a cross-functional team working together towards that impact. I think that's how we got the best successes effectively, is by all working together.
Fantastic. Now, you mentioned the ownership here, and you mentioned like some of the frameworks which are the OKR. I know like you advocate this a lot. And another concept you advocate too, which is transparency. So, a lot of times, one of the main things, and funny enough, like I was speaking to a founder today, and he was like telling me about the challenges he was facing because one of the founders wasn't transparent enough with the rest of the team on the end goal that he had. And this has affected actually the business very, very bad. So, so if we want really, Arnaud, to have healthy culture, right?
Yes.
If I want to call it healthy culture, because I'm a big believer in culture. Of course, talent is important, but I believe like the culture. So OKRs, they are perfect, and, I also I didn't apply them, or I wasn't lucky to be in a company that applies them, but, I was curious. I brought the book. I've seen all the, best practices that they have been done. People maybe know Google, it was fostered in Google mainly, and then it was applied in other companies. So, but other than this, from the culture perspective, especially as the team grows, and I'm very curious about this, I always ask the same questions to people like yourself, Arnaud, to see as the team grows, how we can keep this ownership you talked about and the transparency while maintaining the culture of the company and making sure that no one, even the founders, they don't have other agenda that the people who works in the company, they're not aware of.
I think there are multiple ways we try to do that. First of all, at Wanderu, especially during the pandemic, which was very bad for everybody, especially for travel companies, Wanderu had a very difficult time at that time. And, it became clear during the pandemic for Wanderu that, transparency was just, critical for the survival of the business, right? Without the transparency, good or bad, and mostly bad during the pandemic, without that transparency, what will happen is that each and every person on the team will not have the right level of information to take that ownership, but to do the right thing that they can do for their own area that they own, and be able to deliver on that area the best they can to deliver that business impact. So I think, Wanderu learned that lesson about transparency, maybe the hard way, but in a way that showed the value of transparency because of that level of information that you can give to each and every employees and what they can do with it, and the value they can deliver for that, and taking that ownership fully. And I think, therefore, transparency is just critical to the business, right? Without transparency, you cannot have ownership. And if you cannot have ownership, then it means that everybody is just a cog in the machine. Because they just do what they are being asked, and they are not thinking for themselves. The prime in technology is that we hire people to think effectively. Well, that's the whole point of hiring them. What if we just wanted somebody to just to work, that's then you have other solutions effectively that can do work for you, but that's not where we're in. When we want to innovate, we want to deliver wonderful product that users hopefully will love. It's really about having empowering people and teams, specifically cross-functional teams, to think and own their domains. And I think that's a critical part of the culture now, right? And for me, I'm thinking, well, people think about it in different ways, right? So they think about that culture aspect. For me, it's like, okay, if I want somebody to own something, how do I promote that, right? I need to make sure that person is fed with all the information necessary for them to do their job. They need to be able to collaborate effectively with people on the team that they need to collaborate with, and so on, right? Now, the other thing about domain ownership is that domains are not like, it's not like a 2D surface, right? It's not like you have a pizza and you just slice it onto slices. Domains have layers, right? The domain, like marketing, or acquisition, I should say, or user experience, or other of these cross-functional domains. You can always go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, right? So, and you can always slice it into more and more pieces. And the bigger the company is, usually that's what you do, right? You start slicing what used to be a big domain to smaller domains, give part of that new domain, which is an actual domain, to a team to own and go down as needed to the layer that you need effectively. And so that's how we scan, right? So it's effectively is, once we're a small company like Wanderu, no problem, right? You have too many domains for one team. That's actually, but once you get the company like Wayfair, where you have like thousands of engineers and product people and so on, and that's where you kind of divide it up into that that hierarchy of domains.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, like, another thing I want to ask you about, and this is, I like to hear different opinions. Maybe it's kind of a classical question, I know, but I believe the more you get opinions from different leaders like yourself, the better it is. Especially because you've worked with startups mainly, and there two things comes to mind. So first, you need to do a lot of innovation. At the same time, you need to do a lot of risk taking sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in your opinion, like, what is the best way to balance between the two? So this is what I mean. Like, so you need to do innovation. You might need to take some risks, but at the same time, you need to maintain like stable, reliable, for us, like as technologists, technology infrastructure, right? So how do you do, or how do you achieve this balance between innovating, risk taking, but at the same time keep the lights on, as we say?
That's a difficult.
I didn't aim to make it like this, but yeah.
So I think it's more like I go back to risk management, right? You're making sure you're taking the right risk for the right reward, but also that you don't let go. And what that means by that is that it happens very often, that especially in startups, but in any company, I've seen that happen all the time, where you have this big critical project, almost like that feels like you need to do that in order for the company to survive, and therefore in that kind of project, obviously time to market is critical, right? So not only you want to do it fast, but you want to do it fast so that you can bring it to market sooner than later, and the sooner the better. And therefore, in that case, you're going to take shortcuts. You have to, both in terms of features, right? You're going to scope it down to MVP, as we call it, but also you're going to take shortcuts in how you're able to maintain that solution, how reliable it can be, how scalable it can be, right? It's very easy, for example, to say, oh, well, Mauritius doesn't scale horizontally that well, but once we have more users using it, we can turn off make sure that it can scale horizontally, so that we can add more resources to it, and so on, or we can optimize it and more. I think the critical part is that's fine, but that's what the business needs. That's what you deliver. But what is important is to get the commitment that once you do that, you go back and you clean things up. Right? You optimize what needs to be optimized. You clean the code so that it's maintainable. You take away some of the biggest bugs that you put in there to make it work. You start, even from a product standpoint, it's not clear that usually the MVP is actually missing some fairly critical features. And you go back and you start building that additional features and so on. However, what I would argue is that even before you do this kind of big project, where you put everything on the line, the question becomes, is that even the right project to do? Right? And how do you know that? Right, some people have got instincts. Some people say, oh, there is some data there that's sensitive data. The users are really asking a lot about that feature. We should do it. And for me, the pushback, well, is there a way to prove that? Right, so that's where it comes back to more like doing product discovery, where is there things we can test? Yes, we should get qualitative data from our users, but how do you pull through the quantitative data, like your experiments? Effectively, if we're on the right track, right? Is that the right approach? And then even as we build the product, like, how can we verify we're on the right track? And, are we delivering the value that we expected to deliver? And if not, what can we do instead? And so on. So I think I'll go back to really more like, before you go there, what can you do to even understand the need, validate, what we're trying to accomplish, and start delivering it. And then, you take shortcuts, you deliver on it, and then you go back, and then you make it.
So I think what you describe, Arnaud, is like exactly what the lean model and the agile model is all about. So basically, it's to try to, keep getting the feedback, keep getting the numbers fixed based on the inputs you receive from your customers, user, whatever. So pretty much, I like the answer because what you did is you explained it in simple terms, in layman terms, as they say. Like that was really very easy to understand in a way. Like I think a lot of founders, technical founders mainly, I would say they need to listen to this. So thank you for bringing these points here. I want just quickly to touch base on the sector where Wanderu is in today, which is kind of you're dealing with a mix of e-commerce, but also with ground transportation industry, right? So what are you observing in this space? Like, I mean, any specific trends that you're seeing in that domain, and anything which is similar to what you're doing? Like, if we want to, first of all, like, tell me which category we can put Wanderu in, Arnaud.
Sure. So Wanderu is a e-commerce and a marketplace, actually. And our ground market, most of our market is in North America. So US and Canada, while 1 foot in Europe, 1 foot in Mexico. So, our main market is really the North American market. And yes, Wanderu focus very heavily on ground transportation. So bus, train, even ferries. So that's really what the Wanderu is all about. And the reason for that is because if you think about it, that's a market that's people call it a niche, but it's not that small, to be honest. But we're talking about billions of dollars of time. The point with the market is actually hard. It's a hard market to go after. Because it's a very diverse market. It has a lot of players, right? A lot of carriers, a lot of trains and bus companies. Trains less, obviously, but buses definitely. And it's a market where it's used by a lot of people, and yet I will argue it's not the most known market either. So it's maybe that's what makes it niche, right? It's not something that is top of mind for some users. So it's there. It's a very big market. It's a very important market, right? We saw that in the last decade, and but it's a very difficult market, right? Where there is a lot of diversity in the market, and there is a lot of players, and the market is still very much maturing, I should say. Still growing. But it's also like getting more technology savvy and improving as we go. So which is good. That's everything you want from a customer standpoint.
Fantastic. And thank you also for explaining this. You said like it's currently North America. Honestly, I didn't see something similar, at least in the Middle East, in the part of the world where I come. Actually, the whole public transport thing, it's just still picking up. We just had, now having the trains and we had the metro for a while now in Dubai for more than close to 16 years. But I mean, so this is something I'm sure same concept might come to the market here. Now, back to the startup challenges, Arnaud, if you don't mind, because I'm passionate about startups, and one of the main reason why I like to have these conversations with people like yourself, because you faced probably, and I'm sure, a lot of other challenges. So, from your perspective, if I want to think from the co-founder, and here I'm a CTO, okay? So What do you think, like some of the other challenges? So we talked about maybe we're building the wrong product, and we mentioned like how you can fix this, or maybe how you can make sure you're building the right feature. So other than this, from a technologist perspective, and working with a lot of startups in your career, like what are other, like always something you see people do mistakes in, and what kind of things like you advise them to avoid when building?
It's a good question. I think there are a couple of potential mistakes that people carry. One is to not be enough data driven. Right? I've seen that especially in early startups, where there is a fundamental understanding of what we want to accomplish, but not enough validation of honestly if we're going on the right path. And I think that's people talk about pivoting at times, and I've seen that, and but pivoting requires, first of all, it's a very courageous thing to do, but also the other aspect about pivoting is about that it's very data driven, right? It's your pivot because you're like, I'm not getting what I want. Well, how do you know you're not getting what you want? Or is because I'm measuring the number of visitors, I'm measuring traffic, I'm measuring conversion, I'm measuring revenue and other aspects, and I'm like, well, I'm not getting a job. So I think that's one mistake, right? It's not being data driven enough. And there is plenty of excuses about, we don't have enough data because we don't have enough users. Well, there are different ways to get data, qualitative and qualitative. So that's definitely one aspect to keep in mind every time, is that how do you get that data? How do you know you're on the right track? How do you know you're building the right thing? How do you know that you're solving your problem? And I think that's a critical part. The other aspect, what that I've seen, which is too extreme, but I've seen both, which is not typically, I call it not staffing appropriately. And it could be both ways, right? For very different reasons. So one would be to staff too quickly, right? So I talk about making sure that we empower people, that we give them what they need to be successful. I think I've seen companies that tend to grow very quickly. They just assume that they need to invest to get to the next level, and they hire a lot of people, but that creates a lot of churn, effectively, because you need to onboard these people with the people that you have. You need them to feel that they have that proper ownership. That takes time, that takes energy, or they need first to become expert over their domain so that they can really deliver that business impact you're looking for. And if you do that too quickly, you're kind of diluting your efforts there in a way that you're going to lack focus, and you're going to lack ownership, and ultimately, at least for a while, you're going to be in a very difficult place. So where you're not going to deliver that business impact that you're hoping for. Eventually, you have made that such a big investment in having more people. I think the other way around, where you don't have enough people, right? When I talk about cross-functional ownership, what I like to do is effectively understand what kind of, in a team, right, or in a pod, as we call them, in a pod, what kind of expertise do I need? And it doesn't mean that you need to hire one person for one expertise, right? There could be plenty of overlap. It's more like, what are your expertise gaps? What are you trying? What do you need to be successful? What expertise do you really want? And I think that there is and then from that, it's okay, I have some expertise, I have the right credential of expertise. If something happens to somebody, like you don't want to go back to square zero, that's going to get you back by a lot. And then finally, once you have that credential, it's okay, then how many people do I really need to do that for? And obviously, it's never enough. But I think the plan about starving for people as well is that without a critical piece of expertise that you need on your pod for the pod to be self-sufficient, it's going to mean that the other pod is going to borrow from someone. It's going to borrow potentially from another pod, which is fine. If you have some extra time to company, then maybe that's okay. Or you're going to have some sharing, but that means that, that thing, each pod won't be able to be as decoupled as it should be. So I say, so you don't want to create silos. The other problem with that standing for resources is ultimately like people are trying to do the best they can, but they are going to wear many hats, which some extent is totally expected with startup, but there is a limit to that. And you want to make sure that you strike the right balance there. And so I'm saying about ultimately, what people say is that it's really when you identify a need that need is dropping you want to hire for it. That they agree with that. The problem is if you wait too long to hire for that, then that's not good either. If you don't wait long enough to understand to have that need, like you feel like it's really dragging you down, then that's a plan too. So it's trying to find that right balance where you get hungry enough to say, yeah, so we need some of it.
And I think, I know, again, because you mentioned you started with the data and data-driven decisions. And I think, one of the ways, it's not necessarily related to startups, but, once I started myself tracking the activities I do during the day, and then, I kind of do some analytics. Okay, let's say am I responsible for sales and marketing and public relations, even if it's not related to tech, let's say. So, and I say I should be doing 30, 30, 30. If I don't have track, I end up by, for example, doing 90% PR and just 5% for sales and marketing, which is not what I'm supposed to do. The way I can get that is just I need to log it somewhere. I need to quantify this. And I think a lot of people, they fall in this, and then you hear them, yeah, I'm procrastinating on this. Yeah, you're procrastinating because you're not logging it, because you need to put it in somewhere so you can see it. So you need to watch yourself somehow. Of course, we can talk plenty on some techniques that they can apply, but yeah, very, very valid point. And this is related to the hiring thing you mentioned, because sometimes people get in hurry, they get excited, and actually, I tell people now when we talk about hiring, take the COVID, what happened is people start to hire very fast, and then all of a sudden they discover, hey, we don't need all these people because we were growing, numbers were coming. Yeah, so let's hire more people. And I still don't do it, because as a leader, whatever your position is within the company, CEO, CTO, whatever, the last thing you want to have these hard conversations later with people, because so, and this is why, to your point, I liked your approach. You need to measure when really you should do a hire and when you should hold yourself back. So this balance really, really very important. Now, another thing I want to ask you, Arnaud, and this is always comes to when I talk to leaders, technology leaders like yourself. Now, we're living in a very fast-paced world today, where technology is changing by the day, especially, with the AI, and everything is happening. So for you and, for keeping track with the business requirements, so how do you stay, up to the trends? And, how do you evaluate a specific tech? It's not necessarily AI, it can be anything. Hey, guys, you know what? I think this trend is picking up. I think we can leverage it, and we should implement it in our company. So how do you keep pace with these fast changing trends nowadays?
Yeah, I like to definitely read. So I got up a couple of newsletters I'm subscribed to. Definitely to at least understand the high level of what's going on in the industry, especially tech, but also getting alerts about what's happening in control expeditions, and that's something Wanderu is all about, and so on. I think the next level of that is really as well to, you should be able to get information from anywhere. So I'm talking about newsletter, be able to read from different places, articles of different kinds, but also a lot of value come from the employee themselves, right? So, for example, Wanderu and different trailers, people can share what something interesting they have had. Sometimes something we put in social channel, which is more meant to be light-hearted kind of thing. But sometimes it could be industry news, sometimes something related to technology. And this is a very good source of information, right? Because people will kind of bring things that they believe is important to them. And that's something that, as a leader, actually should be considered very effectively. So we get a lot of that effectively from all sides, right? Myself, I volunteer some stuff, my executive team, people on my executive team do that too, and employees do that too, effectively. I think that has been good to see, right? Because I think it opens opportunities as well. Then from that, the question is that, well, how, before even we determine if that's something that we should actually use, right? I think there is opportunity to just play with things, like to experiment, as I mentioned before, but to prototype in a bit, right? And so you can do that on your own time. Obviously, you can do that more at the company level as well, or when some technology you really believe there is a fit. So how can you prove out the fit? The way I like to track that is that Wanderu has a tech radar for technology things, so where we have the common like circles where you can see the technology going from I just want to try it out to now the technology is adopted, and vice versa, right? Sometimes like no, we really want to keep that technology out now, and so on. So be able to try that, be able to talk about it as a team, right? So for me, updating the tech radar means discussing that with the tech leads, so that we can agree on what makes sense. And I think it's important. Right? So ultimately, to answer our question, it's a team effort. Everyone is trying to do their share to keep up to date and bring different aspects, and then we talk about it, we start experiment with the things and make its way through. In this case, the tech stack, but it doesn't have to just be tech, right? It can be anything.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like this approach of having kind of a like team effort in getting these information and discussing them internally. I think like this is a very different yet efficient way also as well. So thank you for sharing that with us, Arnaud. Now, Arnaud, as we are almost like close to an end, I like to keep the last space for you. So if anything, maybe, you want to touch base, I didn't ask you about yet, so feel free to highlight anything you want. Or usually what I ask, if you want to keep the listeners and the audience today with some words of wisdom, what that would be.
Wisdom. I don't know enough about that. About wisdom. I think for me, and maybe that's my own learning, and maybe I'm wrong, so just to be clear, like I'm not, we're creating wisdom, I think is a little bit too much. But there are a couple of things that, because I went from big companies to small companies, startups, and everywhere in between. So I do believe there is always value, no matter where you go, to make sure that you have the right data, that you're measuring the right thing, that you're quantitative and qualitative. So being very data driven. But even if you want to trust your gut, that's fine, right? As long as you measure that, you validate that. So I think that's something I've discovered throughout my career, and I think that's it's critical to the success of a business. Right? It doesn't mean that you have to take data with a grain of salt. Where it's not like, this is going on now. It's like, the stock market is going on. We will run my stocks and to celebrate it. But no, that's not what you do, right? You run it well, but you don't take drastic action, right? You don't just react. Like you have a vision, you have a mission, and it's like, but data is here to help you. Make sure you can deliver on it. So that's one aspect. The other aspect, and I touch on that about staffing, and bringing that expertise, but ultimately a company is all about its people. Right? That's what's important. You talk about culture. Obviously, culture is important. Right? Having a humble culture where people can fit in, that's very inclusive, where people want to stay. I think it's critical to me. a lot of people have talked about diversity in the workplace. I care about that a lot because, people have demonstrated that, having diverse employees means that, you get better ideas. Literally. So from a staffing standpoint, it makes sense. It makes business sense, but it's harder to do for some reason, but it makes business sense. But I think from a staffing standpoint, I think the question becomes not just about, let's hire a bunch of people. It's how do you empower them and put them in the right spot so that they can do their best job. And in startup, it's very easy to say, we're all equal and there is no hierarchy and blah, blah, blah. The truth is that there is always it. Right? It's inclusive or explicit, there is always it. The plan with so it's more making sure that I go back to the domain ownership, making sure that people have the transparency, they have the ownership, meaning that nobody is telling them this is what to do. They think for themselves. They can define what they need to do on their own, and they get the support if you do that. So support from the team, support from the leaders, and so on. I think one of the biggest thing as leaders we can do is really create that opportunity to have the best people in the best place, doing the best job, and therefore they do the best impact. But for me, that's really something that I feel fully, that's a big part of my job. Now you want to sometimes direct them and tell them, please look at this thing, align them better with what's happening overall. But ultimately, you want to hire people that typically can own their own things.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the ultimate situation, I would say. Finally, Arnaud, where people can find more about you, maybe connect with you and find about Wanderu.
Sure. So for me, my main channel for better work has been LinkedIn. Yes. So you can definitely find it there. I'm on core as well, but obviously I'm also have a Wanderu email, which is lucas@wanderu.com. So easy, hopefully to remember. Wanderu, there is as well, wanderu.com. Definitely, it's another of the core companies or website. That's where people can go and buy bus and train tickets and ferries. I keep on forgetting ferries. I should not. Ferries are great. And so they can go to wanderu.com and learn more about the company there as well.
Great. So people, they don't have to memorize this. They will find all this information in the show notes. So that would be put there. Arnaud, again, thank you very much for your really these insightful, I would say, you laughed at when I said wisdom, but really it's wisdom because I think, we need to share more. And that's why, I want to thank you because you came today and you shared your experience about the best practices from culture perspective, hiring, the way, you test things, being data driven. So this is wisdom because, what we are aiming to do here, between all my guests and myself is to pass the baton to the next generation of founders and so they can start really remarkable companies. So thank you again for being here on the show today. And this is usually how I end my episodes. This is for the audience. If you just discovered this podcast by luck, thank you for passing by. If you like it, please do subscribe. We are available on all the podcasting platforms and on YouTube also as well. So subscribe and share it with your friends and colleagues. And if you are one of the loyal audience that keep coming back, thank you for all your messages, your support that you show and encouragement. I really appreciate this. And as I say, as usual, we will meet again very soon. So stay tuned. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mehmet.
Hit that subscribe button. Share the show with your tech-savvy friends and fellow entrepreneurs. And leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support means the world to us.